My difficulty with this at conferences is figuring out whom to talk to. I don't feel awkward in conversation once engaged, but unless the other person is just completely doing nothing, which is rare, I have a hard time starting a conversation, which I think is a really common scenario. And what I want to say to that is when we're at conferences, everybody's there to network. It's a different environment from if you're just at the grocery store. Yeah, maybe the person in front of you doesn't want to be bothered, right? Doesn't want you to introduce yourselves. And I think when we go to conferences, we bring a lot of those mindsets of regular life with us. And that's why we feel like, well, if there's two people that are talking to each other, we shouldn't just jump into that conversation. That would be rude in normal life. When we have our conference hat on and we're at a conference, we need to remember everybody's there to network. That's almost the entire purpose of going to a conference. Of course, there's the content as well. That's a given. But we have to go into it assuming that. Now, having said that, you will run into, as a matter of fact, somebody recently talked to me about a situation where they were at a conference and they went up and talked to somebody who were having a conversation. They went in, two people were having a conversation and they went and kind of approached, and then they were actually, the person got offended and said, hey, we're busy. And they felt like that was really rude. And so things like that will happen. I don't know if they'll happen that extreme, but definitely things will happen where you'll pop into a conversation and somehow we'll feel awkward and we'll somehow feel like they're not welcoming to you. So assume that's going to happen going into it. And going back to what I said in some previous content, go into this whole networking thing with a plan in place, with a system. So you say, I'm going to, if A, then B, right? If I am not talking to anybody and I see a group of people, I am going to walk up and just have your questions prepared, right? So that you don't have to walk in and sort of think on the fly of what to talk about. Just say, hey, how's it going? I'm Joe, right? I'm Kaylin. And then have a couple follow-up questions, right? For when, it's awkward silence. What do you all do? You know what I mean? What companies are you guys with? Whatever. Just have a couple questions. Again, asking people questions is a great way to get things going. But so I would say by default, at a conference, you should assume anytime you see a person, a group of people, you should just jump right in and introduce yourself. That's the purpose of going to a conference. Now, I understand as I'm saying this, it's going to feel awkward. And I felt that myself personally. It's going to feel awkward to do it. Not every interaction is going to go well. Probably 3 out of 5 interactions are going to go great, right? You'll be pleasantly surprised by again, people are there to meet people. So you'll be pleasantly surprised by that. Now, one of the things particularly I'm thinking about, like at a Magento conference, there's definitely a difference between people there that are merchants and people there that are agencies. Merchants that are there are being sold to constantly. So I'm just thinking in my head of some interactions I had where I went and introduced myself to somebody and then they seemed really uninterested, and it was because they're a merchant and they thought I was selling them on something. So again, those dynamics are going to happen, but that's where not selling yourself is a great way to go, and just asking people questions I think is an excellent approach in general. So yeah, that's what I had to say about that.